Many of you who clicked on this video already have a pretty good understanding of what Omori is about, and how its characters are the most important part of the story. Now, I want you guys to step back for a second and think about the antagonist of the game. Who is it? You may start off by saying that it has to be Sunny himself, or rather the Omori version of him. And you would be right on that. However, I believe that Omori has more than one antagonist. In fact, it happens to be a person who is almost as close to Sunny as his own self is. I believe that Marie is actually one of the antagonists to the story. Now, a lot of you are probably flabbergasted by what I just said, since Marie is seemingly one of the sweetest of the bunch. But before you go to the comments raging about how stupid of an idea that is, my hypothetical viewer, take a second to consider this. What is the definition of an antagonist? An antagonist is a person who opposes or fights against the protagonist throughout the story. That does not mean that they are inherently bad. It means that they cause the protagonist to have issues throughout the story, and it makes them overcome things that have been caused by the antagonists themselves. A little unrelated, but if you've seen Death Note, it's more or less the same deal. Light Yagami is definitely the person in the wrong here, although that itself is a loaded statement. Yet he's considered the protagonist, and the good person of the show is considered the antagonist, because he's opposing the main character. The antagonist is different than a villain. When we look at what role Marie plays throughout the game, it becomes abundantly more clear that she is the antagonist. At least the idea of her. The fear of her. She's this bubbly and mother-like character that all the others look up to in a sense. Why would she be someone to be afraid of? Well, it's not all that cut and dry. As many of you are aware, Marie is actually dead within the story of Omori. She's been dead for a while, and if you allow that thought to set in, it begins to make a lot more sense. The idea of her is haunting Sunny, to the point where he gets hallucinations and panic attacks, simply thinking about her, or anything else related. She's everywhere he looks. In his house, in his memories, and some of her even in his violin. I'm sorry, was that too far? She's relentless and haunts every second of his life, even following him into his deepest dreams and never allowing him to truly escape. Well, this isn't really her fault and doesn't make her evil, I hear you saying. And once more, I want to reiterate that being the antagonist does not make you evil. Although, I want to also point out that Marie isn't completely void of blame. From what we know of Marie, she is a sweet, loving person who is seemingly perfect in every way. At least from what I picked up. She's looked up to by the others in the group, and interestingly enough, if you look in the characters of the newly released Omori strategy guide, quote, the glue that holds them all together. Interesting thing to put in once you consider that she's no longer there. But that's a topic for another day. What I'm interested in is the fact that they all see her as some kind of goddess. Now, I want you to take a second to think about how so much expectations versus realities can cause a person to viol themselves in the illusion that they themselves have to be perfect. Everyone thinks you are perfect, so you have to live up to that expectation. That is the fatal flaw of Marie. She thinks that she and everything she does has to be perfect and impressive to be valid. I have no substantial proof that this is true, but I have a slight feeling that these feelings of perfectionism weren't just present in her. I have a gnawing suspicion that they began to leak their way into Sunny as Marie projected herself onto him. She had to be perfect. Everything had to be perfect. Sunny had to be perfect. I do not believe that this came with any malice, but it is something that clearly began to happen. At least once they were aware of the recital. I don't have much insight into Marie other than the headspace version of her, and it's hard to say how well she is portrayed here, as it could be very well Sunny idolizing her and taking all blame away from her, when it was completely possible that it wasn't entirely Sunny's fault that she was killed. I want you to take a second and step back. Keep your mind open for this one, because it may be a bit of a stretch, but it kind of makes sense if you allow yourself to see Marie in a different light. Do you know the hallucinations of Marie or different manifestations of fear that Sunny goes up against throughout the game? Well, take a second to listen to their dialogue. Steady your breathing. It's not as scary as you think. Now, I know that this seems to be dialogue that Marie is saying to Sunny throughout these scenes, but if we take a second to step back and look at it, it becomes possible that this is something she was telling him about the recital. The fact that he had nothing to be afraid of, and if he was just able to calm himself down, he'd be able to get through anything. That anything is achievable. Now, this sounds like a great sentiment to have, but sometimes it's healthier to just let something go. Which is why it was so, I hate to say it, but toxic not to let Sunny back away from what he was doing. She would spend endless hours on a single piece, expecting it to be perfect. And it's not a stretch to say that she expected the same from Sunny. She pushed him, and pushed him, and pushed him. Then he pushed her. Sometimes it can be easy to get caught up in the loop of perfectionism, but sometimes we have to let go and accept that not everything will be perfect, that nobody is perfect and should not be expected to be. That is something that Marie was tragically never able to achieve. As she says in the game, she pushed Sunny too hard. And in the end, that inevitably led to her death. So yes, Marie is an antagonist of the series. It was never how she intended things to turn out, but whether she meant it or not, she will always be the antagonist to Sunny's story. No matter how long that may last. Do you guys want more awesome videos and character analysis in the future? All it costs is your love by hitting that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all had a nice night. Please, please, please remember to like and subscribe like I just said, and I will see you all next time.